In Shinjo City, hitman Sakotter finishes sharpening his blade and takes off in his fancy car. Later, in a house near the beach, some Yakuza thugs report to their boss Kawano that a new gang is trying to take over the city. Irritated by his men's incompetence, Kawano puts a knife inside one of them and slashes his face. Meanwhile, outside, Sakotter sneaks around and brings down every guard on his way. When blood starts dripping through a window and a man's legs appear on another, the men finally realize there's an intruder and rush to take Kawano to safety. While Sakotter continues to fight and kill thugs on the roof, the men try to leave with Kawano through the door, but bodies block it, so they take him to the second floor instead. Sakotter expertly uses his blade to end the thugs coming after him, sending them rolling down the stairs. Eventually, Kawano reaches his car only to discover the driver is already dead. After slashing a few more guys, Sakotter is thrown through a glass door by a gangster. They start fighting hand-to-hand, using any object or piece of furniture found in the room. Sakotter falls and the man sits on him to stab him, but Sakotter cuts off his hand and leaves him to bleed to death on the floor. Then he goes to Kawano's bedroom and uses a thug's body as a shield against Kawano's shots. A terrified Kawano tries to escape through the balcony, but Sakotter quickly catches up and finally kills him. When a thug tries to shoot Sakotter by surprise, he's killed first by Sakotter's handler Fujita. On their way out, Fujita pays Sakotter for this mission and asks him not to retire, but Sakotter refuses because his family is his priority now. All this is seen by someone in the shadows. Afterwards, Sakotter goes home to his wife Aoi and his daughter Ryo and takes a shower before dinner. While Sakotter is changing, he hears his family screaming and finds some men wearing demon masks surrounding his family. They thank Sakotter for getting rid of Kawano's gang because now their group called the Kaimengumi can control the city. When one of the men grabs Ryo, Sakotter tackles him and gets ready to shoot him, but he freezes when another thug shoots something on the table. Then the man starts beating Sakotter up on the floor. Ryo begs the guy not to hurt her farther, so Aoi rushes to get her out of the way before begging for mercy in tears. Tired of her crying, a man shoots her in the head. A furious Sakotter tells Ryo to run before he attacks the strangers, but a man shoots the girl. While Sakotter has a breakdown, the gang leader says that there's a demon in the city that possesses someone once every 50 years, causing them to go on a killing spree. The Kaimengumi's duty is to protect the city from such demon, but Sakotter still promises to kill them all one day. The man say they'll wait for that day before shooting Sakotter too. Soon the police find the family and assume Sakotter shot Ryo and Aoi before self-deleting. 12 years later, Mayor Tsunohara is talking to the press, explaining how he transformed Shinjo City from a dangerous crime-infested area into a beautiful place of progress. He also announces that they'll be opening an integrated resort with a theater, shopping, and casino. A journalist named Kamiyama tries to ask about all the people who have gone missing and been killed in the last decade, including the leader of the group opposing the resort construction, but Tsunohara says it's all factless rumors. In the meantime, Sakotter has been living in a vegetative state in a medical prison. When his sentence is finally over, Fujita comes to pick him up and takes him to an apartment in the slums, proving that the city isn't doing as great as propaganda says. Days start to pass and Sakotter is taken care of by Fujita's relative Raj, who bathes him, feeds him, and takes him on walks. One evening when they are returning to the apartment, a criminal suddenly jumps on them and stabs Sakotter's arm as he screams his name. It turns out this is the thug whose hand Sakotter cut off years ago and he wants revenge. But Sakotter still doesn't react. At the same time, Kamiyama is meeting with the guy with the slashed face to ask him about the Kaimengumi. The thug thinks Sakotter was hired by the Kaimengumi, and Kamiyama notices the day of the attack is the same date as the resort getting its business license. All this happened around the time Tsunohara became mayor. The thug also explains that the Kaimengumi gets their money from human trafficking and illegal substances. The conversation is interrupted by a masked man who breaks the van's window, causing Kamiyama to run away in fear. The man runs after him to kill him with a hammer, while a second masked guy takes the thug out of the van. Then the men put the hammer in the thug's hand and give him a gun to force him to self-delete. They watch him die before they receive an important call. At home, Fujita is practicing ping pong while thinking about the whole deal with Sakotter and how he told the Kaimengumi about the family. But they didn't listen to him when he asked them not to kill them. At that moment, he gets a call with surprising news. At the hospital, police chief Kotaro comes to check on the victim of a hobo fight in the neighborhood. He gives the two guarding officers some money so they can take a break, then he enters the room, revealing the victim is Sakater. Kotaro is now wearing a demon mask and asks Sakater if he recognizes him, which means he's one of the Kaimengumi who killed Sakater's family, as he takes an injection from his coat. Kotaro explains that 12 years ago, when the group realized Sakater was still alive, they received orders not to shoot him again, but he always thought they should have killed him. Then Kotaro injects Sakater's unaware that his voice is slowly bringing Sakater out of his vegetative state. When Kotaro gets ready for a selfie, he sees Sakater moving again. After accidentally falling, Sakater grabs Kotaro and makes him fall, followed by some choking. However, Kotaro hits Sakater with a few objects to push him off and lands a few kicks to knock him out. At that moment, the officers come back and Kotaro has to take off the mask to stop them from shooting. As soon as the guards turn around, Kotaro puts on the mask again and shoots an officer in the face, using a pillow to cover the noise. The other officer isn't surprised because he's also part of the Kaimengumi. When they discover a doctor saw all this, they shoot him as well. Suddenly, Sakater wakes up and jumps on Kotaro, so the officer tries to defend his boss, which triggers a fight among the three of them. The officer ends up falling and stuck between the bed and wall while Kotaro keeps on kicking Sakater, who manages to hit his enemy's head before trying to use the four-line to choke him. Kotaro defends himself, and in the struggle they push the officer through the window. Then Sakater tries the four-line again, and when Kotaro takes it off, Sakater finishes strangling him with the bed sheets. When Fujita and Raj arrive at the hospital, they're shocked to see Sakater walk out. He grabs some food on his way out, which triggers a memory of his family's death, further feeding his desire for revenge. The news of Sakater's revival reaches the Kaimengumi, including the guys working in the illegal factory and moving the girls for sale. The leader is delighted to hear this and calls Sakater a demon loose in the city. So he starts dancing to celebrate with an ancient ritual. Soon Fujita receives a message from the Kaimengumi asking him to bring them Sakater's dead body. The group drives to the factory and Sakater's body is dropped in a bag before Fujita and Raj leave. Once the bag is thrown on a conveyor machine, Sakater comes out and punches a guard before leaving the room. The factory owner Takemoto sees Sakater fighting a bunch of his employees on the cameras and immediately warns the gate guard, who opens fire at the van. Raj is immediately killed, but Fujita is only wounded and quickly shoots the guards back. After Takemoto consumes his own product, he puts on the mask that marks him as one of the killers of Sakater's family. Meanwhile, Sakater moves through the different areas of the factory, bringing down every thug in his way by using items he finds around or even smashing their heads on the wall, railings, and machinery. A worker picks up Sakater with a loader truck and covers him with trash before dropping him on the floor, so Sakater throws a knife to kill him. Another worker in a cart opens fire, so Sakater jumps on him to derail the vehicle and steals the gun to kill a few more men. Some workers jump into the cart with him and Sakater kills them with his knife. Then he jumps off right before the cart crashes. Still hungry for revenge, Sakater continues to make his way through the stairs and a corridor, always killing all the men who try to stop him. When he reaches the office floor, he discovers Takemoto is already outside pressing a button on his phone. At that moment, the building blows up and Takemoto receives a call from the leader, who saw the explosion and congratulates him on his success. However, Takemoto hangs up when he sees Sakater coming out of the building protecting himself with a blanket. It looks like another fight is about to begin, but Takemoto is run over Fujita, who falls to his knees while puking blood. He apologizes to Sakater for telling the Kaimengumi about his family and agrees he deserves an end too. So Sakater doesn't hesitate to shoot him. Afterwards, Sakater hangs Takemoto and starts beating him up. But Takemoto only laughs and swears loyalty to his leader. At that moment, Takemoto's phone rings and Sakater hears the leader's voice. He furiously destroys Takemoto's mask as the leader reveals that his daughter is still alive. The leader turns out to be Mayor Sunahara, and he explains that all these criminal activities bring the money to make the city progress. If Sakater wants to see his daughter again, he must let Takemoto go. However, Sakater kills Takemoto anyway. In the morning, reporters talk about all the attacks that happened last night and blame them on Sakater, saying he died in the factory explosion. Meanwhile, Rio is now a teenager being watched by Cantor, another one of the masked men. He's in charge of the Kaimangumi's human trafficking business and likes to stare at Ryo in inappropriate ways. Tsunohara calls him and orders him to find Sakotter, who has been hiding since the incident. In a humble neighborhood, police officer Takegawa returns to his apartment and notices the window was open before being startled by Sakotter. It turns out that many years ago Sakotter saved Takegawa's life, and since then the officer has been passing him information. Takegawa shows Sakotter a video of the Kaimangumi killing the CEO of a security company. He also has the finger of the victim. Now that company handles the security at the new resort. After stealing Takegawa's gun, Sakotter goes to the security company headquarters and kills thugs on every floor until he finds a small living space. While Ryo hides behind a couch, Sakotter finds a board full of pictures of his daughter with Cantor posing as her father. At that moment Cantor comes in and the men immediately start to fight. While Ryo uses the chance to run away, Sakotter overpowers Cantor and starts throwing him against the furniture all over the room. Cantor retaliates by hitting Sakotter with a table before trying to shoot him. But Sakotter dodges and starts fighting him for the gun. When Cantor hits him with a decoration to bring him down, he also insults him, and Sakotter finally realizes this is the guy that killed his wife. The gun is jammed, so Sakotter is about to end this. But suddenly Ryo comes back and calls Cantor a father before shooting Sakotter with her school bow. Sakotter is too shocked to dodge and the arrow hits him in the chest before Cantor pushes him through the window. Cantor then looks out and discovers Sakotter is escaping in a car. It turns out Takegawa is driving Sakotter around and takes him to a safe spot where he can remove the arrow and take care of the wound. At that moment Takegawa gets a call from Tsunohara, who saw him on the cameras and asks him to pass the phone to Sakotter. Then Tsunohara tells Sakotter that if he wants to see Ryo again, he must come to the resort, without caring about his wound. Sakotter drives to his hideout to grab his old blade and fancy car. Meanwhile, Ryo is locked up in a room at the resort. There are guards on every floor and every corner with plenty of weapons. Suddenly, Sakotter's empty car appears outside as a distraction while Sakotter himself sneaks inside to start killing thugs with his blade and the guns he takes from the dead men. He also uses any objects in the room like cargo carts and the fire extinguisher. When he takes the stairs, the fight continues, and Sakotter never stops killing men as he keeps going higher and higher. Most of the thugs are easy to kill, but eventually he finds a guy with a sword who manages to hurt him before he gets killed too. Pushing through the pain, Sakotter keeps going until he encounters Cantor. The men fight again, and at first it seems their skills are on the same level. As he dodges attacks like a pro, Cantor complains about Sakotter showing up right when Ryo's body is starting to develop, offering creepy descriptions of her. Cantor is about to stab Sakotter, but he stops the blade and only gets a scar on his cheek. Then Sakotter steals the blade and stabs Cantor's eye before hitting him in the head to knock him out. More thugs come after him, so by the time Sakotter makes it to the last floor, he's exhausted. When he enters a room, he's shocked to find Ryo, who doesn't recognize him. This distraction allows the last masked man named Jin to knock Sakotter out. Moments later, Sakotter is taken to Tsunohara, who tells Ryo about the legend of the city demon. Tsunohara wants Sakotter to become that demon and gets his sword ready to kill Ryo, only for Takegawa to burst in with open fire. Most of the guards quickly die, and Tsunohara uses one of his men as a shield to leave the room. Sakotter calls Ryo's name, and his words make her remember the day of the incident, revealing that the shot had hit her toy. She runs to hide with Takegawa while Sakotter fights Jin, who uses a metal staff. Tsunohara returns to watch how easily Jin overpowers Sakotter, who manages to only land a hit or two while Jin continues to beat him up. However, after lots of struggle, Sakotter finds an opening and stabs Jin before throwing him on the stairs. Afterwards, Tsunohara takes off Jin's mask, revealing he's his twin brother, except Jin has a burn mark on his face. A flashback shows how they were kept apart as kids at first, but once they met, Jin would do anything for Tsunohara, even kill. Meanwhile, Takegawa is trying to leave the building with Ryo, who decides to go back for her father. After putting on his mask, Tsunohara starts fighting Sakotter using his sword. Since Sakotter is already heavily wounded, it's easy for Tsunohara to slash him over and over until he cuts off Sakotter's free hand. This isn't enough to stop Sakotter, who keeps dragging his weak body to throw more attacks. Tsunohara blocks all his blows but still gets excited because he sees that Sakotter has truly become the demon of the city. Both men suddenly attack and stab each other at the same time, so Sakata uses the chance to unmask Sunahara and finally kill him with a blow to the head. Then Sakata rolls down the stairs and notices Rio saw everything. She tries to come closer, but at that moment Cantor reappears to shoot Sakata. Next, Cantor tries to reunite with Rio, who doesn't want anything to do with him now that she remembers he killed her mom. He begs for her attention, and Sakata appears behind him to finally kill him with his blade. Sakata collapses in Ryo's arms and offers a few words of affection before dying. Sometime later, the police, firefighters, and doctors arrive to pick up all the bodies and wounded people. One of these bodies is Jin, who is still alive. Rio is told to wait in the ambulance, but while everyone is distracted, she runs away. A year later, Jin is pretending to be his brother and wins the elections by getting sympathy for his scar. After an interview, Jin wears the leader's mask and performs a ritual in a shrine in the forest. At that moment, Rio shows up and shoots Jin with multiple arrows until he's dead. Then she leaves in her father's car, where she keeps a family picture.